You're finally alone in the house. A feeling of peace settles over you until a knock at the door shatters the silence and you realize you were never truly by yourself. I was 18. The summer had just begun. School was out and I hadn't found a job yet. My days were a blur of video games, streaming shows, and the quiet comfort of an empty house. It wasn't unusual for my parents to be gone for a few nights, and I always looked forward to having the place to myself. That evening, I was sprawled on the couch, phone in one hand, some show playing in the background. It was late, maybe pushing midnight. That's when the first knock came. I muted the TV. Who could that be at this hour? A chill, instinctive and sharp shot through me. Instead of calling out, I moved silently to the door and peered through the tiny glass eye. Two men stood on the porch, dressed almost identically, just waiting. My breath caught. I didn't make a sound. A few seconds later, one spoke up. "Hello? We're looking to speak with the homeowners." He used my parents' real last name. It was far too late for a polite visit. I stayed frozen, watching as they exchanged a look, then stepped off the porch and vanished into the dark. No car headlights flicked on. They had walked here. That detail made my skin crawl. I crept back to the living room, leaving the TV dead silent. My ears strained against the quiet. Minutes later, I heard it. Footsteps on the gravel path, circling the house. They weren't leaving. They were coming around back. I sprinted to the kitchen window just in time to see a shadow push through the gate into my backyard. I ducked down, heart hammering against my ribs. The sound of hands fumbling with the back door latch was unmistakable. That was my signal. I grabbed my phone and slipped into the garage, whispering my address to the 911 operator. Less than 60 seconds later, a sickening crack echoed through the walls. The back door was forced open. I could hear their boots on the hardwood, deliberate and unhurried. They didn't rummage. They went straight for the stairs up to the bedrooms. A door opened and closed. Then, absolute silence. Those next 10 minutes, hiding in the dark garage, were the longest of my life. When the police finally pulled up, chaos erupted upstairs. Quick, heavy footsteps, muffled arguing. The officers stormed in. The men were caught, but they never said a word. Not about why they were there or who they were looking for. The charge was simple breaking and entering, but the intent felt far more sinister. It was as if they were lying in wait for someone who wasn't home. The silence after they broke in was more terrifying than the sound. 4 years back, I lived alone in a remote Wyoming house, surrounded by miles of empty land. The rain had been relentless for weeks, a constant drumming on the roof. On that Sunday, curled up inside, a pounding at the door cut through the downpour. A soaked stranger stood there, claiming his campsite was washed out and he needed shelter. My house was the only one for miles. It made sense, but the danger screamed louder. I offered to call him a ride. He refused, gave me a long empty stare, and trudged back into the storm. I thought that was the end of it, but 2 hours into the night, an orange glow pulsed through my back window. Deep in the tree line, a small campfire fought against the rain. A figure stood beside it. I called the police, knowing help was far away. When I looked again, the figure was gone. Then, footsteps. Heavy, approaching steps. From the side window, I saw him pass, a hunting rifle gripped in his hands. He reached the front door, and the banging started again, violent and splintering the wood. In that split second, I knew it was him or me. I fired a single warning shot into the doorframe. The deafening ring faded into nothing but the sound of rain. He was gone. The police found a duffel bag buried near the fire pit. They called it a burglary kit. possibly meant for worse. It had been planted ahead of time. This wasn't a random act of desperation. He had planned this. He had been watching. To this day, I have no idea why he chose me or where he is now. Back in high school, my mom worked overnight shifts. The house was mine from evening until dawn. One night, after she left, I heard the distinct sound of the front door closing downstairs. I checked the clock, 3:30 a.m. Too early for her to be back. Then, footsteps. Not the familiar tired shuffle of my mom heading to bed, but a slow, deliberate tour of every room downstairs. I flicked my bedroom light on. The footsteps stopped. The house was pitch black below. No lights were on. A burglar would have taken my console, the most valuable thing in sight. But it was still there. I had to know. "Mom?" I called out from the bottom of the stairs. Only silence answered. I walked into the kitchen and froze. There, at the dining table in the dark, a man sat perfectly still. All black clothing, a dark mask. He just stared. I didn't scream. I just ran, locking myself in my room as I dialed 911. I heard him walk to the foot of the stairs. Then the front door opened and closed. 30 seconds later, my mom's headlights filled the driveway. He wasn't there for things. He was waiting for her. My being home was the only thing that disrupted his plan. He didn't want our things. He was waiting for someone. Living rurally, you get used to solitude. I was storing tools in my shed before winter when I saw a man walking down the deserted road that borders my property. No pack, no car in sight. He just disappeared. Later, a loud thud from the shed brought me outside, rifle in hand. The door was swung wide open. Inside, nothing was touched. But as I walked back to the house, a deep unease settled in my gut. Opening my own front door, I saw them, fresh, muddy boot prints leading down the hall to the spare room. I raised my rifle, listening at the door. I could hear breathing, heavy breathing, right on the other side. The knob twisted violently and the door flew open. A man, face contorted with pure rage, charged at me, a metal shovel raised above his head. The sight of my gun stopped him cold. We stood in a terrified standoff. Suddenly, he hurled the shovel at me, spun around, and scrambled out the window into the endless field. He vanished. His intentions died with his escape. I know if I hadn't been holding that rifle, I wouldn't be here to tell you this story. I booked an Airbnb in a sleepy, remote town. The house was at the end of a dark, wooded lane. One upstairs window was lit. The last guest must have forgotten, I thought. I settled into the main bedroom, exhausted. Just as sleep began to pull me under, a heavy thump vibrated the walls. Then, silence. Then, the creaking of floorboards in the other room. The creaks moved into the hall and stopped right outside my door. The handle jiggled. Then it was forced down, and a shoulder slammed into the wood. The door burst halfway open. In the sliver of light, I saw half a face, eyes burning with a hatred I cannot describe. I threw my weight against it, managed to relatch the lock. He yelled something unintelligible, then his footsteps pounded down the stairs and out. The police came. The owner investigated. But I never learned who that man was or why he harbored such fury for a total stranger in a rental house. In my first cheap apartment, rain hammered the roof as I gamed with friends. A strange thump from above made me check for leaks. Finding nothing, I went back online. Hours later, another muffled thud. This one felt different. I went outside in the downpour and saw it, a small, grimy window near the roof, half hidden by a tree branch. An attic? I'd never seen a hatch. I found it, hidden in my bedroom closet ceiling. I pulled the ladder down. A wave of rot and decay hit me first. Then another thump. I climbed up, flashlight beam cutting through the dust, and at the far end, in that cramped dark tunnel, a pair of eyes reflected back at me. A man, on all fours, staring. I fell back, tumbling off the ladder. Police found he'd been living up there for days, entering from a tree. But that image, a stranger hiding in the space above my head, watching my life, has never left me. The final story is a reminder that threats often test the door before they break it down. After my mother passed, I moved into her old farmhouse. One night, an old pickup truck drove right up to the house, headlights off. A man got out, stood on the porch staring at the door for a full minute, then left. I called the police. A few hours later, I was jolted awake by a single, solid knock. The front door was already open. Footsteps were downstairs. I hid, dialing 911 silently as I heard him enter my bedroom, rustling through my things. He was looking for something specific. After he left, I saw him from the back window, the same man, walking into the vast, tall grass of the field, swallowed by the night. He knew I was home. He went into my bedroom anyway. I sold the house a month later. What was he planning to do if he found me sleeping? If these stories kept you on the edge of your seat, do me a favor and like this video. It helps more people find winds of thought. And let us know in the comments which moment would have broken your calm.